Former North Carolina Governor Jim Hunt has died. He is the only man to serve 4 terms as the state's governor. His first stint as governor was from 1977 to 1985, and then 8 years later, he won 2 more terms and led the state until 2001.
Jim Hunt championed public education and focused the state's economy on high-tech industries. He helped push through amendments to allow governors to serve consecutive terms and also worked to give governors veto power. He died at the age of 88. Current Governor Josh Stein called Jim Hunt a, quote, visionary who founded Smart Start, raised teacher pay, protected air quality, and created the North Carolina Biotech Center. Stein said on a personal level, Hunt was also a mentor and a dear friend.
Former Governor Roy Cooper said Hunt was the greatest governor in North Carolina history. Cooper's statement said, and I'm quoting again, "I don't know anyone who worked harder and had a greater positive effect on the people of North Carolina than Jim Hunt," end quote. Cooper also called Hunt a great friend and mentor.